There have been conflicting accounts of the events leading up to LaVoy Finicum being shot and killed during the attempt to round up members of the militants illegally occupying the Malheur Wildlife Refuge a few days ago. Now the authorities have released video from the scene to clear things up, and it shows him being shot and killed. So bear that in mind. This is video of a man dying. But with that said, let's watch.
Okay, so obviously they sat there for a while, and then Finicum, who's driving, decided no.
He was driving in the other truck, not the.
Yeah, you can't see it there. There was another truck that remained at that spot.
That was where Eamon Bundy
exactly.
was. Yeah. So he pulls away.
He drives about a mile down the road.
Yeah, and Eamon Bundy and the other truck just surrendered, and they were all taken into custody. Some of the two bodyguards were later then released, which is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so you see they're going to come up on another roadblock with a spike strip soon.
Yeah, and then after he does what he does, then you'll see him get out of the car, and that's obviously where he's going to get shot.
Well, he's going to get in trouble for crossing that double yellow.
Okay, so there's a roadblock. He almost runs over a police officer.
He might have hit him. It's hard to say.
They say he didn't.
He looks like he's on the ground, but he might have just fallen
he's
over.
out already.
He gets out.
His hands up there.
But
he does.
then he puts his hands. He's reaching into his pocket.
Then he pulls his coat. He's reaching in. You can see with his right hand he was reaching in again.
What the F was he doing?
Well, he was reaching for a gun. It turns
I think
out,
so, right?
He had a 9mm.
Yeah, I have the details on that.
The FBI says he had a 9mm.
So he had his hands up when he initially got out, but then he kept bringing them down and going like this, and just keep him. I don't know. I hate to say that, but
yeah, we have an account from an FBI special agent, Greg Breitzing, who said his hands raised. Finicum ran out of the car and toward the snowbank, yelling at police. Obviously, we didn't have audio there. Then, as police approached with guns drawn, he reached toward the left side of his waist. He began to put his hands back up, then reached down again. That was fairly clear from the video, I believe. Breitzing said Finicum was reaching toward a jacket pocket that contained a loaded 9mm semi-automatic handgun. Breitzing went on to say, actions have consequences. As the video clearly shows, it was a reckless action that resulted in consequences you've seen here today. And by the way, troopers found 2 loaded .233 caliber semi-automatic rifles and 1 loaded .38 special revolver in the truck. So he had 1 gun on his person, multiple other guns in the vehicle.
So he was. I heard other accounts from someone who was in that truck, and she was saying that, which is not bore out by this video, that he had his hands up and he was yelling, "Shoot me! Go ahead and shoot me!" That's what she said he was saying. So maybe she saw him with the hands up, didn't see him put him down, and that's when they shot him.
Possible.
But that's what I think he was yelling, according to a woman who was inside that truck, saying that he was saying, "Go ahead and shoot me now. You want to shoot me?" So it was almost like suicide by cop. It seemed like a little bit, especially when he went into his thing.
It looked like he reached.
And he was the guy who said, "I'd rather die than spend life in the cell."
He said it multiple times, yes. It looked like he reached, either couldn't find the gun or something, put his hands back up, and then you see him pull his jacket to the side and reach in again. So both the video and what the special agents are saying seems to make clear he wasn't laying on the ground with his hands up and then they executed him.
And it seemed also, Ben, that he ran away from that car because he knew he wanted to get shot and he didn't want maybe other people in that car to get shot. This is all speculation, but that's what it certainly looks like a suicide by cop.
It could be that. I don't think anything is super clear because it's shot from a chopper and we don't know exactly what he's doing, but it does appear that he's reaching. And the FBI released it, obviously, because they wanted to very quickly, within 40, very unusual to release video of a police shooting 48 hours after a police shooting, but they wanted to put an end as quickly as possible to speculation that officers had behaved that officers had sought to shoot him or that shot him at the moment that his hands were up. His hands were up earlier. By the way, that's an Oregon State trooper who killed him, not an FBI agent.
Okay.
For what it's
well,
worth.
and really fast, by the way, so the 18-year-old in the car was wrong to say that she saw he was just standing with his hands up and was killed. But the other account that we got, that he charged the police, wasn't technically that accurate either. He was making threatening motions, but he was not physically charging the police when he was killed.
There's a couple of accounts by militia members who contradicted the 18-year-old who gave the most sensationalistic account of what happened. But the one we showed on the show with video, that was of one of the bodyguards of Eamon Bundy that was in the other car. And he kept saying, the guys in the other car told me that they told him that he was charging towards the officers.
That's
so
true.
he hadn't seen it. But now all that is irrelevant because we have the video and we could all judge for ourselves. And he's not charging, he's kind of walking in thick snow towards the officers. I don't know how much he could have charged. Yeah, there is that weird thing that if he was going to shoot at the cops, why didn't he just come out with his gun already, right? But
Might have been wearing gloves.
Right.
I
So-
think they didn't want. My theory is he didn't want them to shoot the other people in the truck, so he wanted to get away far
Right.
enough away and then go.
So now let's establish the facts, and then I'm going to say something that people might not agree with. Is it a justifiable shooting? There's not a single police department or any jury anywhere in the country that wouldn't say that's justifiable. I mean, it is a classic case. The guy says in video beforehand, which they are aware of, I will kill anyone trying to arrest me, right? And he's got his weapon in the video, and then they find weapons in the car. He's a guy who has said that he won't be taken alive, right? And he's reaching into his pocket.
Yeah.
From a guy who said he would shoot cops with weapons he has.
Look, we just real quick before you get to your point, it's going to offend everybody. In Pennsylvania, we finally got a case of a cop who was actually arrested and charged with shooting an unarmed man, and that was a guy who'd already been tasered, and an old man, and a man in his 60s. That's no longer old, and he was lying on his ground after having been tasered and shaking because he'd been tasered, and at one point in the snow put his hands under his body. My hunch is to grab his heart, since we know now he didn't have a weapon, and a cop shot him twice, female officer shot him twice.
We covered that at the time, yeah.
In the back, and he killed him, and she was acquitted. So, I mean, like, you're right. I mean, this one, I mean, if that gets an acquittal, first of all, it's amazing that anything gets charged anymore. To get charged and then to get a conviction, it's inconceivable. That would never, that officer has nothing to worry about.
That's right. Now, that's the state of affairs as we have them in America today. Now, my slightly controversial opinion is they should have waited another second before they shot him. Okay, so I'm actually going in that direction. So, look, I know he's reaching into his pocket, and as it turns out, the pocket he was reaching into had a gun, right? But I want the cops to. They didn't know for sure. I mean, this is a situation where they are most sure because he said, "I have guns and I will kill you." Right? I get it. But I still want them to see the gun before they shoot him. Easy for me to say. I'm not sitting there waiting for him to draw a gun on me. I get it. But that's what we pay the cops for, to take slight chances. Now, in most cases that we've covered here, they don't take that chance, and it turns out, oops, they didn't have a gun. Oops, It was a toy gun. Oops, we never asked them to surrender. Oops, 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 oops. So as a general thing, I would much, much, much prefer cops to shoot at citizens after they've seen a gun. I get it. I get that puts them in bigger danger because by the time you see the gun, right, well, then he's got a chance at shooting at you. I understand that. But it could have been that he didn't have a gun in his pocket and he's dead. So I got no love for this guy. I couldn't be more against him, right? I'm just saying, and I know that a lot of people are going to disagree. Certainly cops are going to disagree. But I would have given him one more second. I would have liked to have seen the gun before he shot him.
I'll disagree with you. You don't need to go to people out there. I'll stand up right here and disagree with you. And I mean, of course, we're almost always on the same side on cop shootings. Like, for the love of God, slow down. But this is a guy who made very aware of a situation plenty of times. Clearly, it was the opposite of Tamir Rice. Plenty of time. They didn't drive up. He didn't get out of the car, and they didn't shoot him. Right?
He almost rammed them.
Right. He twice put his arms down. Put his arms down, then he brought him back up, then he took him out, and then he went back again, and he's turning to face that other cop. If it is a gun, if to the cop's point of view in this case, if it is a gun, and you're waiting to see it, and you miss the first time, he's going to shoot you. So I don't, and they miss all the time.
Yeah.
As we know also, from 18 shots when guys get shot 6 times.
So Ben, those great point, and in a lot of the other videos, including this video in San Francisco where they shot the homeless guy. There's like 18 cops there. It's not like they're in any danger. Miami, where they shoot the white guy who's a bank robber, who turns out, was just mentally disturbed and hadn't hurt anybody. There's like 12 cops there. Like they're in no danger. And he didn't have a gun. He had what they thought was a blade. It turns out it wasn't a blade, right? Yeah. So now in this situation, there's only 2 cops that you can see in the video. One here, the other one over there. It's not like they got him surrounded. It's not like they could just mow him down anytime they want. It's more of a classic old Western shootout, so you're even more right. I'm saying even in this most extreme circumstances, I still would have liked to have seen a gun before the shooting.
I would add on, I think, that normally when we watch a video like we just watched, it's the cop made a decision. He didn't expect that he would see this car or the person in the car. An event develops, and it seems like they don't wait at all. and their first assumption is this random person that I have no knowledge of is going for a weapon, kill them. And look, I think they waited a little while. He walked around, he reached multiple times for the gun. I think they should still be patient, but this is not a random situation. They'd been preparing for 3 weeks for this sort of exact event. And they know that these people, we've been pointing out that LaVoy Finicum is saying, you're not going to take me alive, I will kill anyone who tries to arrest me. But they're all saying that. Their video is being put out literally as the event is going on of a guy yelling with an assault rifle, if anyone tries to stop you, kill them. If there's every group that you believe is predisposed to use violence against cops, this is that group. I mean, for all they knew, the people in the car were going to start shooting out of the windows any second. They had 3 guns in there.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
But actually, I'm going to use that as an argument on my behalf. So every point you guys are making is super fair. This is a classic case where it's a justifiable shoot. I get it. But then they started firing at the car, right? But nobody from the car shot at them, at the cops.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's a fine point.
And that's why I say, even in this most extreme case, I wanted to see the gun, because they're shooting as a default position.
Do we have,
right?
what do we know happened with the car? I couldn't find anything. We saw it. We saw the video.
We saw the sparks
video.
coming
There's
from the bullets.
A lot of sparks into the snow, like
there was
fire in the snow.
The 18-year-old had said that they had fired, she just made up a number, 100. She felt like they fired at the car 100 times. We don't know about that number, but we did watch in the video later. They are firing at the car.
Yes.
You see the bullets going, so ricocheting.
But that's a totally separate question of whether that shooting is.
And I look again. I've acknowledged all your points are great. John, makes another good point, which is he reached into his pocket 3 times. How many times are you going to let him reach into his pocket before he finally gets the gun out? The flip side to that is the other 2 times he reached into his pocket, he didn't come out with a gun.
And I want to make one other point to respond to some of the comments and Twitter accounts. When we say, based on the evidence that was initially present and based on the new evidence, that it looks like he was justifiably killed, that's not us glorifying in his death. I had no interest in anybody dying. I was saying, when we first saw the interview with LaVoy Finicum like 2 weeks ago, this guy does not need to die. He can just leave. We didn't want any violence whatsoever, but we can also look and say this is a guy who's acting like the sort of person who tries to commit suicide by having cops murder him. And to say that we're being inconsistent or hypocritical because who are you to all of a sudden believe the cops' account of what's happening? No, we're not inconsistent at all. We're applying the exact same standards. We believe there is a threshold for threatening behavior towards a cop that eventually allows them to put the person down. He went past that.
This is a huge thing, and why I object to what Cenk is saying pretty strongly is that we're minimizing the enormity of the other violations. I mean, Tamir Rice and Laquan McDonald didn't have guns.
Yeah.
They didn't have guns. It matters that a guy you know is armed. He's an armed human being, armed often, right? Nobody had heard of Tamir Rice or Laquan McDonald. These people were not on police radar, right? And they just decided that they did. Here's a guy we know who, unlike those, if these Oregon police officers or that one who pulled the trigger, if that guy had been the guy who had come upon Laquan McDonald in the street in Chicago, Laquan McDonald is probably alive right now because that cop wasn't incredibly eager to shoot. He took some time. So it strikes me that again, this is in no way the kind of case where we say, based on having seen the video, that the police misbehaved. I get it. You want to see a gun. I don't need to see it. He made enough. He made enough moves there.
It's weird that I felt badly for that guy when he got shot. I didn't expect that.
I felt bad for him. Yeah.
Felt horrible.
It surprised me.
He's got
right?
kids, right? He's
Yes,
got a
well,
family.
he's foster kids. They're not real. But
No, come on.
no, I mean, but he was using them as a revenue stream on his ranch. I mean, I have foster
did
kids
hear
in
that.
my family too. I'm not dismissing that. I'm saying that he was using them as an income, and so I mean, I just have, there's a lot of questions about his parenting.
I don't know.
So, and what kind of parent leaves his kids and goes to do this stuff? That's a bad parent.
Well, that's very fair.
That's right.
So I did feel bad. I did feel badly for him, and it did seem like for these cops were trying to do the right thing. In fact, they let those guys go. That they're not even. They're saying just give us your name, you can go. It was obvious that sheriff was broken up about it, that they had to shoot this guy. Nobody who didn't want to get shot didn't get shot. The only guy who got shot was the guy who said he wanted to get shot, and he got shot. So I just.
And I think you make a great point. We don't know. We don't know what's in his head, and now we're never going to know what's in his head. but the rapidity with which he separated himself from the car was.
If there was ever I mean,
Yeah.
put it in any other situation. Say like Mike Brown in Ferguson, he had been on videotape saying, "Any cop gets in my face, I'm going to shoot him. I'm going to shoot him. I always have a gun on me." There's not even a case.
No, the people on Twitter would have acted exactly the same way, I think.
So look, the hypocrisy of that is unquestionable and something that I raged about earlier in the week.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Tamir Rice got 2 seconds. These guys got 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean,
Some of them are still, their clock's still ticking.
If
right, 4 of them.
Right. If African Americans had said on tape, "I have a weapon and I will kill cops with it," they would not have received 3 weeks. Right. They would, and we know when an African American boy, 12-year-old, has a toy gun, he gets 2 seconds. So yes, the disparity is outrageous. I'm just saying, even within this situation, I was a little concerned. But obviously, reaching into the pocket 3 times, yeah, they gave him a lot of leeway. And the last point, actually, on your behalf, guys, is not only did the cops know he was armed, he knew the cops knew that he was armed.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
So that means that he's not surprised, right? Like, he couldn't have been surprised. Hey, I've made a video saying I will shoot you guys. You know I'm armed. I'm going to reach into my pocket to get that gun, which actually is in his pocket. He can't be like, "Oh my God, they shot me."
And he wasn't just randomly pulled over.
Right.
And then he had been stopped by the cops. He drove off, either tried to get around or possibly to ram part of another police barricade, almost hitting a cop, and then gets out. No one knows better not to be reaching in their pockets for their gun.
How many times was he shot?
We don't know for sure. Apparently, you see in the video after he's shot, he's on the ground, his arm goes up in the air. From the account of the special agents that were there, they then used some equivalent of tear gas and flashbangs to incapacitate the people in the car. Took about 10 minutes, and only then did they administer care to him. I don't believe he died.
So
at that
some of
point.
those flashes we saw, that makes more sense that they were because the flash was so significant that I was like, what gun are they using?
Yeah.
So it was probably tear gas.
So that's what we saw.
Then maybe that's what we saw. Maybe they weren't shooting
Flashbang,
into the car.
grenades.
Yeah.
But she said they shot, but she might have been.
But she
I think
said
they
a
shot
lot
as
of
well,
things.
but-
I mean, there was accounts that now are complete BS, as you can tell from that tape, that he was on his knees and with hands up surrendering, which is clearly not the case.
True.